Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Doing series on the MiSTer FPGA D10 Nano project, more specifically in this instance, the PlayStation 1 core from Roboter FPGA Zoom Spas. I know what you're thinking, this core has been done for a very long time, and that is true. It's absolutely outstanding and is my de facto way to play PlayStation 1 games. But even with it being quote-unquote finished, it just received an update as of yesterday from Zakk, one of the developers on MiSTer Discord that loves going in and seeing where he can find improvements, especially in the visuals. We now have a completely new interlacing mode weave for the PlayStation 1 core, and it is so fundamentally better than any other interlace we've ever had before. It looks absolutely outstanding, and I'm super stoked to talk about it today. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But what you're looking at right now is Dead or Alive on PlayStation 1, and this was one of the games that ran in 480i or interlace mode. And if you're not aware, interlacing in the modern era gives us an absolute headache because it was a technology to show two different interlace fields versus frames on a CRT television to get a higher resolution and better looking games in part. But now without that CRT, it's something that we have to basically fight through to make it look like it isn't just two interlace fields. And what you're looking at right now is that brand new weave, and damn it, it looks so good. Now as we move back over to the previous deinterlacing implementation, you're going to see that health bar is definitely jumping around, and there is going to be some jitter in the image. That's just how the previous deinterlacing worked. While there is a 480p mode for the PlayStation 1 core, it does have to change the aspect ratio to work, and in some games that just isn't going to look great. It's a little bit of a limitation of how it works. But now as we move back to weave, take a look at that health bar, take a look at the characters' names, Hayabusa up there, and even the characters in and of themselves, they look rock solid stable. This is absolutely a massive improvement over what we had previously as far as deinterlacing options are concerned. Now I know we have the other option of going direct video mode out of MiSTer FPGA into something like a RetroTink and using the motion adaptive deinterlacing to get basically an even better result, but at $750 just for the tank plus the MiSTer FPGA, we're definitely getting into the quote-unquote exotic solutions to these problems. But something like weave is just now baked into the core, so it is a zero cost solution to get you a much better looking game. And there were a decent amount of 480i games on PlayStation 1, and I will leave a link in the description below to a comprehensive list, or it seems comprehensive to me, of all the games this will benefit from. Even in some games where you just have the menus that are going to be in 480i where the actual game plays in 240p, you're still going to see major improvements. I would say this is like 98% of the way there of just looking like a 240p image versus 480i. And of course in the games that work in this mode, it's just going to look better, and that's 100% what we want, because the previous implementation here with all of the jumping around, it just always looked a little bit off. Now granted, that's not a knock against the people that develop these things. Dealing with interlacing is a metric pain in the ass. It's something I have to used to do back in my filmmaking days before we went to progressive cameras, and it just has always been a chore. Let's move over to another game. This is Urgite, or at least that's how I pronounce it. If you have a different pronunciation, leave it down below. It is another fighting game, and you're going to see that the list of 480i games is pretty much filled up with a ton of fighters, just like on the Sega Saturn side of things. It just allowed them to get a better looking image and use that interlacing. But again, this was technology that was always designed around a CRT television, whether it was in arcades or in the home, because 480i was just one of those technologies that depended on the CRT. And the minute we went to flat panel televisions, it just basically looked a little bit like ass because it wasn't really meant to display 480i images very well. That's why we have stuff like video scalers with all of the deinterlacing algorithms built in to try to give you a better looking image. And I would say Urgite is even more improved than something like Dead or Alive is, just in the overall image quality and how it looks on the new weave deinterlacing. If you've never played the game before, it is a ton of fun. It even features some characters from Final Fantasy VII because this was developed by Square. And you'll see here as we get into the game, outside of a tiny bit of interlacing lines on the characters, you'd have no idea this was actually an interlaced video signal. And it's time for our first soundtrack sample, because this game's got great music as well. Listen for 45 seconds and come back and I'll show you more examples of how good this is. The game just has such good music, and it is such a fun time, especially in two-player mode. It's one of those arcade fighting games that I feel like most people either have never played or have completely forgotten about, compared to something like Dead or Alive, obviously in the public consciousness way more. But this game, especially being a full 3D game versus something like Dead or Alive, which takes place in a 3D space, but just has those 2D backgrounds, shows even better just how good a game can look when it is properly deinterlaced. And if you're wondering how to get this core, you do have to manually install it. There is a pin on the MiSTer FPGA Discord under the PlayStation chat channel, so just be aware that it's not going to come down with update all yet because it hasn't been merged in. It is basically that new. By the time you're watching this, we're talking about the fact that this maybe was out for 24 to 26 hours, but what it does so incredibly well. This just looks stunning. I've never seen an interlace signal look this good just on MiSTer FPGA without throwing a RetroTink 4K or a PixelFX More 4K into the mix. And again, I totally get it. Most of you probably just want to plug your MiSTer FPGA into the back of your television and start playing, because those scalers are not cheap and they really aren't for everyone. They do an incredible job, but I understand most of you don't actually use scalers. But leave me a comment down below and tell me, do you use a scaler in your gaming setup or do you just go straight into the back of your television? Now moving to the third game in the example, and I couldn't help myself because damn it, it is a 480i game. This is Bubsy 3D. It's absolutely a fever dream of everything you could do wrong design wise as far as a 3D platformer is concerned. But there's something intriguing about the game because one, you can tell the developers tried, and I will never say a game is bad if people try really hard to make it good. I'll just say that it didn't work out the way they wanted to. Secondarily, there's something about all of the flat shaded polygons in this game that look even better with this new deinterlacing algorithm. There's nothing about deinterlacing that's going to make Bubsy a good game. It is still going to be the game if you played it and experienced it that it was before, but there's something about the new weave deinterlacing that just makes the game look that much better. All of those actual mountains, all of the platforms, they just look so much sharper when you actually have a really good deinterlacing algorithm behind it. You'll see here as you run forward, you'd really be hard pressed to tell this was not just a 240p game, and I had to double and even triple check the list and data of the 480i games because this just looks like something that was running at 240p back when it was released. But I did confirm this is a 480i game, and that's how good this new weave deinterlacing truly is. In some games you just think to yourself, this doesn't look like it's been interlaced in any way, shape, or form, nor does it look like it's actually deinterlacing in real time. And there is something weirdly charming about Bubsy 3D. It is not a good game, it is a janky game, but you can tell the developers were trying to make something good here, but it really was the early days of 3D platformers, and obviously this game has become much of a meme at this point in time, but it still makes a really good visual example, and this game can do a couple things right, including the soundtrack, which is pretty charming, and I'll give you a soundtrack sample in just a moment. But as we just kind of look out into the actual world here, this just does not look interlaced whatsoever to me. Weave is hiding every single visual indicator that there's an interlaced image going on here, and that is how good it is. But here comes that soundtrack, as it is good, and I'll be right back.
Woo! What a rush!
I mean, the music sounds pretty old-timey, like you'd be seeing it in some sort of western where someone was playing some ragtime at a piano, but it does work in the context of the game. And again, Bubsy 3D is not a good game, it's just one of those games that had the best visual indications as to how good the new deinterlacing algorithm is, and I had to show it to you. But moving over to one more game, just to give you an example of how good this now looks, this is Turbo Prop Racing, and I could have included something like Ridge Racer Turbo right here, but pretty much everyone knows what that game looks like, so it is fun to kind of mix up the examples. And this is another one on the previous deinterlacing method. You would definitely get a lot of judder in a lot of the text on screen, and now you can just see again, focus on that text, it is just stable on screen, and that's something that definitely makes a difference, especially depending on the size of your display. On something like my 70-inch 4K OLED, you can definitely see when the text is jumping around because it just absolutely goes crazy. We're just swinging the camera as much as we can here just to see if we can catch any interlacing artifacts on screen. Sometimes when you swing left and right really rapidly, you can see things that you normally wouldn't see. And something like this game, I don't know if it would be a great game, but it is a fun game for the visual examples. But there's so many other games that we could have talked about, Tekken 3 being one of the other big ones. Just go ahead and look at that link in the description below, and you'll see all of the games that ran in 480i. And like I said, I believe it's every single one of them, but I'm sure there's a couple missing. Trying to find comprehensive lists of things like 480i modes in games on certain platforms can be a little bit challenging, especially on a system with as many games released as PlayStation 1 did. So I'm sure there's a couple really deep cuts out there that no one even remembers having played that do in fact run in 480i. But this boat absolutely also controls like you're going into a war zone, and it just has absolutely no good control to it sometimes. Kind of feels like a vibe with Hulk Hogan in Thunder in Paradise. And yes, that I cut in some Thunder in Paradise footage just to have a little bit of a joke about how bad the boat can control in turboprop racing. You know 100% I did, because I got a video on this game coming up soon. But honestly, the new deinterlacing methodology on MiSTer FPGA for the PlayStation 1 core is just legit a massive upgrade from anything we've seen before, and hopefully this can be brought to other cores as well so we can get the same improvements. But if you thought PlayStation 1 development was over, it is not. It's just been a really long time between cores, and again, this is not going to come down with update all. You have to go over to MiSTer Discord on the PlayStation chat and grab it from the pins there, but I'm sure it will be added to update all soon. But that's the video. We're done. Definitely check it out. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.